if you understand this, I mean, it is so obvious of what this could potentially do for our industry. And I'm not just talking pest, I'm talking pest and lawn.
This is the PMP Industry Insider Podcast.
Everyone, welcome out to another episode of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast. We take a look at what is changing in the pest and lawn industries, and we take you to the front lines of those who are driving those changes. I'm Donnie Shelton, owner of Triangle Home Services, which has Triangle Pest as well as Triangle Lawn, my two favorite service companies, might I add. And with me this morning is a very sick, more than mentally, Mr. Dan Gordon. Dan, would you like to say good morning?
Good morning. I didn't want to say that you were sick. I flew home on an airplane the other night, and the guy was sneezing all over me, and I was not happy. Anyway, feeling good though. Well, as good as possible. But nobody cares about me.
No one
cares about you.
No,
right? So
they do not. No.
It's Dan Gordon from PCO Bookkeepers and M&A specialists, CFOs, bookkeepers, exit planning, brokers, etc. And our sponsors, Coalmarch by WorkWave. If you're interested in marketing services, that would be coalmarch.com. Insurance services for the pest industry, that would be PestSure, tailor-made for the pest and lawn industries. Learn more at pestsure.com, and Voice for Pest, which is a management industry leader in designing, implementing unparalleled voice solutions for PCOs of any size, actually, and lawn care guys. It's they have it. They have an integration with PestPack, pest routes or field routes, and Real Green, among others. Learn more, voiceforpest.com/podcast. And if you're interested in joining one of our peer groups, which is really starting to take off, well, it's already started to take off. It's reaching altitude. We've got about 70 people in our peer group so far. So if you're interested, go to pmpindustrieinsider.com/peer groups, or go back and listen to episode 136 for more information. And today, we have our favorite guests.
Guests with an S?
Yep. Donnie and I.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, for sure.
And we're going to talk. So we came back from WorkWave, heard about all this AI stuff, very impressed with it. It's just, it's a whirlwind what's going on with AI. And Donnie actually had told me that he's experimenting with something called Agent AI, and we're going to talk about that today. Mm-hmm. And so go ahead. What's Agent AI?
Yeah, so the topic is marketing, sales, and beyond, the Agent AI playbook for service business owners. And listen, I started getting prepped for this podcast, and I got so excited as I ran, and I'm not joking when I say this, like I got done doing a demo, and I got so excited about it. My leadership team was in a meeting. I'm like, do you guys want a break? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, you have to come watch this. And I did the demo that I'm going to do in this episode for them. And listen, the demo is not like, we're breaking into a bank and putting millions of dollars in an account, although that would be kind of cool. It's not that kind of demo, but it is the ramifications of it. And so we thought, meaning Dan and I thought, this would be a fantastic topic because, if you listen to any kind of news, again, you went to the WorkWave conference, right? Anything doing, having to do with software, everyone's talking about AI and how important AI is. And I've done a few talks on it. Did you attend the one I did in North Carolina, Dan, where I was talking about how AI is a transformative technology? Were you in on that one? I don't remember if you were
not there, but you did do a podcast using the same outline. So.
Okay. Well, nonetheless, right. The point is that, AI is here to stay. And even though it's one of those key words right now, it's a buzzword where a CEO has to say it at least 5 times in every sentence whenever they're talking about their business and how they're going to transform everything with AI. There's a lot of hype surrounding AI, some of which I think is probably not warranted. But there is also some capability that I think is pretty important. And I do believe it to be a transformative technology, much like cell phones, kind of ushered in a whole nother generation, when you think about things like Google Maps and you think about things like Uber, billion-dollar industries. I feel like AI is one of those technologies, right? It's one of the key technologies that's going to essentially enable a whole nother generation of innovation. So, in any case, why are we talking about agent AI and exactly what is it and how is it any different than the normal chat GPT or chatbots that we typically have? And so I'm going to try to let's start with that first. So when
So
you
there's
think of
generative AI, which
yes,
is you query it and it gives you an answer, right?
well, basically what it does is it has machine learning, right? And I think I don't remember if I did this on this podcast. Like I'm getting old, so everything's kind of blending together. But
You are.
we walked through how AI works and how AI uses neural networks and it uses statistics to figure out what based on this path, this is what's most likely to come next. And so that's what's called generative AI. So if you give it a prompt based on statistics, it will say this is probably what this person's looking for, and it generates content, it generates images, it generates whatever. That's called generative AI, and it is freaking awesome. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, we use it all the time now. It's very much part of my day to day workflow. There are definitely areas that I could improve. There's areas that I could use it a lot more. But by and large, you can almost think of it as like just this massive intelligence. Okay. So that's generative AI. Okay. So when we talk about agent AI, it's a little different because now what I can do is I can take that and I can give it a task. For example, like a chatbot is going to respond to me, but I have to prompt it, right? I have to tell it, look, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And I have to kind of be there with it every step of the way. Agent AI is very different in that I can give it specific task and then it sits on top of this generative AI and it will go out and perform those tasks for me. And so it's very different. And what I think is, it's almost transformative because just imagine for a moment someone in your call center, almost unlimited intelligence, never calls in, works 24 hours, and all you do is
Why do
type.
I need this stuff? That's my whole staff's.
That's right, right. And And you can train it on specific tasks, especially repetitive tasks, and it does it every single time. That is why, everyone it's 2025 and, right now we're recording this at the very beginning, in February actually. And anything that you read as far as news articles, you look at all the larger technology companies, they're talking about this rise of AI agents and how they're going to transform the workforce. And I believe that. I mean, I don't think that, when you hear folks like, the CEO of NVIDIA, you hear, Salesforce talking about, 30% of most administrative work is going to go away because, autonomous agents are going to take over. I absolutely believe that's possible. And the reason is because, when you think about what's happening in your office now, and I'm talking to our listeners right now, you think about the amount of repetitive tasks that are going on in your office right now, whether it's posting work orders, whether it's charging cards, whether it's, I mean, just even scheduling, which scheduling you know, has its own nuances. But if you already got the AI that knows how to do it, and now you're going to give this task to an autonomous agent, those things can be completely offloaded, and now those folks can do something at a higher level. And instead of them, spending 8 hours of doing some repetitive task, that can be offloaded, and now they can be thinking about how to give you more money or how to make you more money in marketing or whatever. But nonetheless, the point is, especially for our industry, is that this is for me personally. I'm going on a vacation here pretty soon, and this is going to be my project. Um, I'm going to really dig into this agent AI mainly because, and not that, listen, I have to be careful because I'm really interested in it, and I have to do work and
This is what Donnie does on vacation. He works, but he works on what he wants to work
yeah,
on.
exactly. I
And I'm
get to
sure
do
his
it.
family's thrilled about
No,
that. But
they're
go
so
ahead.
excited. They're so excited. But the reality of it is that I'm excited about it not because of where it's at right now. And listen, it probably is already where I need it to be. I just don't have the skills quite yet to get it there for me personally. But big picture, going back to what we're talking about, what is agent AI? It's essentially nothing more than an agent that can sit on top of AI in general, and you can train it on very specific tasks and then just offload it. to that. And so you can almost think of it as like a personal assistant. And this is actually my goal for my trip is that I actually want to create my own AI personal assistant to handle my calendar, to handle my emails. I mean, obviously, it can't drive my laundry to the dry cleaners. Not that I have any kind of laundry I need to do that with anyway. But if I did, that can't go do that. But in any case, that's kind of my goal. So let's talk through. One of the things that I
Don't
did.
let me forget. I want to understand how it keeps your calendar if people are asking you, like, do you have to be involved? But let's first get there. But
Yeah, let's get there.
that's an
So I'm
interesting
gonna
one.
I'm going to go. You should. So if you're on the YouTube version, I am going to do. Oh my goodness gracious! I have to open system settings here. I have to allow Zoom, which I did. Um, Looks like that's all set and ready to go. And now let's try that again. Are you able to see my browser now?
I can actually you have three, multiple screens up.
Multiple screens. Well, we don't want that. We want specific. Let me share a specific browser here. Let's try that. How's that? Should have one
Yep.
browser now. Okay,
I
so
got Google browser
yep.
use enable AI control.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to use a software called Browser Use, um, and essentially what this is a software where you can essentially create agents to go out and do work or task for you. Now, I'm going to use Browser Use in the cloud mainly because generally speaking, you would install an agent on your local computer, and for very good reason. Like if you think about things like, for example, when I log into my email, my password's already saved. When I go, if I have other data that I'm working with, my password's already saved. If you have to run it outside of, like, if you have to run it in the cloud, you run into some real privacy issues and you run into some real security issues. But for the sake of this demo, I'm going to do something pretty simple and pretty tame, right? Which is I'm going to create an agent to go out and do some research for me. And here is the prompt that I've created for this agent. I said, okay, I want you to go to Google, find me the top 3 companies that service Apex, North Carolina, that do lawn care and fertilization. Okay. Use the following criteria for recommending the 3 companies in order of priority. You still with me there, Dan? You haven't fell asleep, have you?
Yep. No,
Okay,
I'm
good.
reading.
The number of reviews with the highest number being more preferable. Number 2, the review rating with the highest number being more preferable. And number 3, they must service the Apex NC area. Next, please ensure that you don't recommend companies that do mowing. If you're listening, Google, please reread that statement. Ensure that you don't recommend companies that do mowing. I am I am looking for lawn fertilization. Also, I'm looking for companies that have a special offer or discounts available. All right, make sense?
Yes, but what's the difference between me as a consumer saying, show me lawn care companies in Apex, North Carolina?
Yeah, no difference.
Yeah,
Right now, I'm just doing this for purpose of a demo. There's
gotcha.
absolutely more sophisticated demos I can do. I just want to show you how the technology works. So I'm going to send this into, I'm going to create this agent to go and do this research for me. So I just launched it. If you can see the browser here, and if I maximize this, does it make it
Yeah,
easier
no,
to see?
make it bigger. Yeah, it's kind of small.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, so you can see here to the left, it's got my query, and then also here to the left, you can see what it's doing. So it's going in, it's got its own browser up, and it's actually going in and it's digesting the contents of this screen, and it's going through and doing the work itself. And so now it researched, it found triangle. Can you see? I mean, I'm not sure how the demo.
Hmm.
So it's found triangle. It's it's going through the content on this page, um, and it's trying
How
to
did it
figure out.
find triangle? At first, it had
It
Lawn
searched it.
Doctor and some others.
Yeah, it
Okay,
just
but
went
you
through.
didn't tell it to
No,
look
I
at
didn't tell it to do
triangle.
any of this. I just gave it that one prompt, and now it's going in and doing all this work by itself. So
Okay.
now it's looking for coupons, it's looking for special offers. It came up with this query all on its own. So it looks at the company names. You can see it's researching now Barefoot Lawn Care. It's looking at their website, looking at where they service. Like it's going through and doing all this all on its own. Like I'm not touching any of this right now. I mean, you can see my hands. Like this is all happening. This is what the agent is doing. The agent's doing its own research right now. And if you look to the left here on the browser, you can see, kind of a history of what it's doing. So it's grabbing each page. Now, based on that, it just returned back and said, okay, your top 3 course, it put Triangle Lawn Care. I might have did this demo just so that Triangle came to top. No, but top three in Apex right
How
now.
did Triangle, is it because your SEO is like if we just
No,
did a regular
no,
search, would Triangle be the number one?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's saying, hey, and it also gives me in the ways that it tells me why it selected that. So it gives me the rating, it gives me the number of reviews, it tells me what the special offer is, and it also tells me why it made that one that choice. Like this is insane. Like the
Most
point.
reviews, high rating, good. So just read it off for people who are
Oh
on the
yeah, for those that
podcast, not
sorry,
on.
still enamored into this right now.
Right.
So yeah, so it came back with three Triangle Lawn Care. It says rating 4.8 out of 552 reviews, and it says a special offer $46 a month. It says comments most reviews, highest rating, and good offer. That's why I picked that. Number two is Barefoot Lawn Care. If you're listening to Barefoot, you're welcome. 4.6 is 56 reviews. It says free soul sample worth $60. Good balance of reviews and rating. Special offer versus special offer of value. And then the last one is Turf Wizards, and it gives them a 4.5 out of 21. Free retreatments, offers available, and it says all companies focused on lawn fertilization have special offers, meeting a requirement of not offering mowing services. This is just crazy, absolutely crazy. And so, listen, that you could go on to ChatGPT and use the web search, right, and pretty much replicate what I just did. But the difference is that we watched real time this agent do this research, which means, when you think about that, now if I had this installed locally, I could say, listen, I want you to post work orders that come in the queue that are open, and I'm going to train you how to do it. And anytime this queue gets open, I want you to go out and do it. And now that agent is going to go do that. So that's what makes this demo, in my mind, to me, it's going to be groundbreaking for our industry because when you think about the amount of repetitive work that we're already doing, with just running the business, it's going to allow us to level up. So, does that make sense?
Yes.
Are you with me, Dan?
Well, I'm with you, but I'm looking at it and going, what if I just went to Google and say, show me the best lawn care companies in
Again, I
Apex,
used
North
a
Carolina.
very I used a very simple, but
But
it's not about don't get caught up in the example, get caught up in what the way it did it, right? Because that's the difference.
so I have Pest Pack, Real Green, Field Routes, whatever. I've got a bunch of tickets in queue from the mobile, options in those programs. And I say, okay, I want to, post all the Technician One's tickets. Go do it.
Correct.
And you show it how to do it.
and
Okay.
you train it like you're going to have to do some training, right? You're going to say this is how you
Hmm.
post a work order, but once you do that, it's done. Like it's done, right? And how much does that cost? I mean, listen, there's another piece of this which again
How
I
could
did.
it screw it up? So the example I gave you just now, how could it?
Well, I mean, it's like most things, right? You're probably your first couple times it may end up doing something wrong here or there, but once you fine tune it, it's done. Really. I mean, like,
Okay.
when like I would not turn over, me personally, not yet. I'm not there yet with I would not turn over charging cards yet to an autonomous agent. I would certainly turn over posted work. And there would be a period, right, where it would be like, okay, well, we're going to go for 2 months. We're going to have the agent run it, and we're going to back it up with someone going back behind, and we could still run our normal audit reports. Hell, you could even create agents that go in and do audits for you, right, to make sure that
Mhm.
things are okay. So, point is, yes, that was a pretty watered down example, but that's not what makes that example so cool. What makes it so cool is the fact that you watch the agent go in and on its own, figure out like, okay, this is the best lawn company based on what you just told me, and do its own research to do that. That's the part that's really key. So, super exciting. The reason that's so exciting is because before, like when you think about Google, you think about you like, well, I could just go on Google and do that. That was all programmed. Someone had to sit back and write the algorithm. Someone had to go back and like, we're not going to do that. Well, I mean, you probably would. I'm not going to do that, right? So when you don't have to do that, and all you got to do is just train them on the task, and then they're going to go and do the task. That's to me is it's groundbreaking. I mean, it really is. It's because think about the ramifications in terms of marketing. What can be done there?
Right.
What are the
Right.
ramifications in terms of like converting sales? What if like This could just set up a customer calls at 2 a.m. or sends in something at 2 a.m. I could just take care of the entire sale, schedule it, charge it, be done with it at 2 a.m.
Or go out to Zillow and tell me every house in a certain neighborhood that is a certain value and above with, certain acreage and above.
Hmm.
Um, you know,
Yeah. I
that's
mean, and there's, again, if you go online, for our listeners, look, here's what I want to do in this episode is I just wanted to introduce you into the whole idea of agent AI. I have been hearing that term for, I mean, this year it has been like it's the new hot term, right? Agent AI. And I've heard it a lot and I really just didn't dig into it a whole lot. But the whole idea here is that when you look at generative AI where it creates, text, images and content based on prompts, this agent AI, it goes and autonomously, like that's the key, autonomously executes tasks, makes decisions, and then integrates in with your other business systems. And so that's the part to me that's groundbreaking because, I mean, think about like even basic things like, okay, I know that you do this, Dan. I know for a fact, even before I say this, I already know that you do it. This morning, did you log into QuickBooks?
absolutely,
Did you download transactions?
absolutely,
Did you categorize them?
absolutely.
How did I know that? Right.
Because I'm a sorry soul who
Yeah.
that's the highlight of my day
Right.
is to see what I build and what I got paid.
I know that. So my point is that, of course, again, the demo I did was pretty simple, but the demo was not about the end result. The demo was about watching the process of an autonomous agent taking a prompt that I gave it and then figuring out what to do and then giving me recommendations based on that. And so at the end of the day,
So tell me about, you said that there are some privacy and security issues. But what you just
100%.
described that I do, I go into QuickBooks Online, which is already on the cloud. Is that a problem or do I need to?
No, no. When I say it's a problem, it's like, think about your own, like the way that you authenticate, the way that you are, like one of the reasons I did a simple one and I did it in a browser is because number one is I didn't want the demo to fail and I didn't want it to burn or whatever. But normally these agents you install as software on your local computer. And so it acts as if it's you, right? So when you think about
Mhm.
when you open up a browser on your computer, it's got all your caching, it's got all your cookies, it's got all of your saved passwords, it's got all that other kind of good stuff. What I was saying is, as far as the security issues, is that if you're running that from the cloud, meaning that you're acting from the cloud, you have to give it those passwords versus if it's already baked in and all it's got to do is click a link. That's very different. Very different.
So in our office, we use something called LastPass, and
Yeah,
everybody is
that's fine.
assigned to and we use QuickBooks probably, or enter QuickBooks a little differently than you do. We have an authenticator. If I go in a client's QuickBooks file, it has to be authenticated through a
Hmm.
phone and whatnot. And, so there's multiple devices so that nobody can break into what we do. would you just would it prompt you to say, okay, go to the authenticator, get me
It does, yeah. And in
okay,
fact, when I was doing another kind of another little test, I had it go to Amazon, and Amazon's like, I don't think you're a person, and so it did this captcha, and it's like, oh,
right?
and it stopped and said, okay, you need to put this in so I can keep going, and I did,
Sure.
and it
That's
got and
cool.
it kept going, and I mean, it figured that out on its own. It just said, hey, I
Yeah.
need you to,
Yep.
so, but if it's installed as a local app, you can bypass a lot of those because you don't first of all you don't need to do anything different than what you're doing right now. It's not like you're giving it your password and now you don't know where your password's actually going outside of the application that you're trying to get into. So for example, think about your QuickBooks password, for example. That password is stored on QuickBooks servers or wherever they store their passwords, right? That is different than me giving it that password to an agent because that agent has its own database and like where is that data going? That's what I say that there's security issues with that. I would be really cautious about giving passwords to a cloud agent versus if I'm running it local on my own computer, which is generally speaking, if you're going to train something, that's exactly how you would do it is you would set it up on your own computer and you would have it run from your computer as if it were you. You know what I mean? So does that make
Gotcha.
sense?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So other things to think about, when you think about what are some tools that you use? So I just used a product called Browser Hughes. There's several of them out there. There's one called Agent GPT. There's another one called Auto GPT. I will say this for right now. Chat GPT launched an agent tool, but it's very limited in what it can do. Um, I don't, to me, Chat GPT is kind of the mainstream, but there's these other little, like again, Agent GPT and Auto GPT.
Who owns these companies, and are they free, and what are
Yeah,
they
a lot.
trying to
These are
achieve?
open source, right? These are open source, and so what are they
Uh-oh.
trying to achieve? I have no idea.
Deep Seek Chinese. What? Tell me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's well, first of all, that whole deep seek Chinese thing, that was a bunch of baloney. That how they built this whole AI model on $200 or whatever. That was not the case, right? It turns out that they found out a little bit later on that it was all a big bluff, and they spent just as much money in AI as anyone else. And so, you know, I guess my point is that if you're looking to get into this and start learning more about it, there's all kinds of chatbots out there. ChatGPT, has its own, it's called Auto GPT Agent, where you can go in and you can tell it come up with you can tell it to go out research things. You can tell it to create charts based on things. You basically it will plan, research, strategize, and then it also work on task for you as well. But the one thing I will say is Auto GPT right now, the agent, it's pretty limited on the chat GPT side. You'd be much better served if you're technical to get into some of these, one of these, like more of these open source tools. What I would say, and here's what I'm going to be focused on in the little, my quote unquote vacation, is that you can also set up these integrations where it doesn't necessarily need to do all the integrations that you need. I mean, meaning like it doesn't have to set those up. You can just give it task. And take, for example, like what integrations do you have in your own software, Dan, for right now? I mean, you got Bill.com, you've got what else you got?
We got Bill.com, we've got ShareFile, we've got something called Zenit that we use to look at people's financials, and it actually uses AI to say, every month you pay the rent, but this month you haven't. What happened? That kind
Right,
of
right,
exception reporting. What else do we have? We have all the CRMs. We have Dext, which is so we have a pretty significant tech stack, and then we use something called Carbon that manages our workflow.
right. So I think the main thing here is that if you're looking to get started in this, I mean, I think the key part is that you want to have these integrations set up already. And then, I mean, for me personally, I think you got to have a technology person on your staff, at least now this is not, this technology is so new. There's just not a lot out there. Like there's not like this mainstream support yet, but it is coming. And I think for a lot of our listeners,
But how about our listeners? We have some bigger companies, but we also have some smaller companies. What does the
mhm.
smaller guy do? Or, maybe get in touch with Andrew Lauder and do
Yeah, I
like
mean, I
a
think that's where we start.
fractionalized AI
hmm
expert or something like
I
that.
think that's where you start because I mean, ultimately, look, this has the capability and really the promise that it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run. It's worth the upfront investment. Now, you know what they say about pioneers, right? They come back with arrows on their backs. But so,
Right.
so I say that to say this. Like I'm excited about this, but I would go slow. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
again, it goes back to what I said at the very beginning. I would not turn over credit cards to an autonomous AI agent. Not yet. I'm just not there with it yet. You never know. I may come back from my trip and be like, nope, I'm good to go. But for right now, for these low level tasks, a virtual assistant that goes through your email and responds on your behalf, based on what you've trained it to do. I mean, I think of like simple things. Like I love to send our folks when they have an anniversary for working here at Triangle. I try to send them an email saying, hey, look, and that sounds terrible. But I could train an agent to do that for me, right? It's not that I don't care. It's just like, sometimes that's a repetitive task that I have to do. And so I would start small. And like you said, if you got some guy that's, they're really small and they don't really have the technical chops nor the resources. I would just look at like trying to find someone that you could fractionalize, or just start listening to YouTube videos. Really, start going on YouTube, listening and getting your head around where this is going. Because, like most technology, if you can get in on it early, you can really leverage it and you can get some massive results. Once it goes really, really mainstream, there's not that much of an advantage because that's what everyone else is doing. Does that make sense?
So yeah, it does. So let's just I want to back up for a second about the schedule. So a lot of people are I noticed a lot of our clients now are going to, I think, Philippines for virtual assistants, right?
Mhm.
And one of the big tasks for those virtual assistants is managing a calendar. So I have this calendar in front of me. Somebody sends me an email. It says, "Hey, I can meet this day and this day. Can you give me an appointment?" And then I send out an invite and or on a phone call. How would you do that? That's an
How would you train
interesting
it?
one. Yeah, how would you train? Like, if I get a phone call, how would I train it to, you know, uh, or can you, the phone call doesn't work. It's more the emails that ask for the
Listen,
appointment.
it's pretty simple. You just say, listen, I want to set up a meeting with this person. Please coordinate a time. Look on my calendar, coordinate a time, and it will actually send the emails and coordinate getting that on your calendar,
Gotcha.
which is just crazy.
No, that's good. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it will send the email out. It already know your availability. It will give options. Once that person responds, it says, okay, it'll confirm it, create the calendar, send out the invite, and you're done.
Hmm.
And you did nothing. I mean, obviously you have to
I'm good
train
at
it.
that. I know
Yeah, I
that.
mean, well, I mean that's the thing, right? There's going to be some upfront training, but once you train it, and I imagine what we're going to see, and in fact, I know this is what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen is that this is going to be overwhelming for a lot of folks, and they're not really going to know how to use it. What's going to happen is some entrepreneurs are going to come along and say, okay, we're going to create agents that know how to do X, and I'm going to sell you that agent. So, for example, I'm going to create an agent that knows how to go out and find the neighbors of your current customers, and they're going to text and email them, and they're going to do this, and you're going to buy this agent. I'm gonna create an agent that's going to manage your calendar for you, and you're going to buy this agent. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to do it at a fraction of the price.
The product obsolescence, uh, the timeline is going to be so compacted because what you just mentioned, there's a guy who started a business all around it. Met him at Pest World. He was on our podcast a few weeks ago. You know, sending out texts to our existing customers or cancels.
Mm-hmm.
If you use this, then you don't need that, right?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. That's a chat bot. This is an agent, right? So my guess is what's going to happen. Now I don't know this, and maybe a business idea just got born. If I was in my 20s, I'd probably be all over this. But nonetheless, I think where this is going to go is now that this technology is available, you're going to see people create kind of these very specific and specialized agents that can go out and do things for you. You know what I
Just
mean?
like apps, it's going to be
Just like apps, except now it's going to be able to make decisions on your behalf, and it's going to be able to figure things out. Like you're not going to have to be as involved in it, and who knows? I mean, like it'd probably be like people. Some agents are going to be better than others. I that's to me that's my guess. We're already seeing some of that now, not in our industry, obviously. And I don't even know. Did they even talk about agents at all when you were? I'm not talking about
They
chatbots. I'm
didn't,
talking about
so
AI
yeah,
agents.
so they didn't, they weren't using terminology. They were just kind of saying this can be done and this can be done, and it was very, very interesting. This guy David was just like, you know, eons ahead of everybody in terms of his understanding and trying to. I don't think he did a good job of dumbing it down, although he did. But it's hard, right? It's very technical. Information. And some people got it, and some people are just like, yeah, I'll hire somebody to do it.
Well, I mean, think about this. Walk through this scenario with me. Let's say that you created a marketing agent and you said, listen, marketing agent, here's your budget every single month. Based on demand, I want you to optimize our campaigns and I want you to set spend limits hourly based on my budget and what I'm doing. And that agent could do that 24 hours a day.
That's wild.
But I'm just saying, like that's why I got so excited about this is because if I can hire someone someone to do something 24 hours a day. I mean, all I've got to do is train it. I'm telling you, Dan, like the possibilities of this is just it's almost mind blowing. And again, going back to this whole idea that we're going to have business owners training all these agents, I don't think that's going to be the case. But I do think that we're going to see a lot of companies pop up as a result of this technology that are going to create agents that can do things like this. Like you talked about these agencies in the Philippines. Hell, I mean, they're going to get undercut by this, you know what I mean? Supplanted
Right.
by this because, I mean, it's still a fairly young technology, but again, that's why we're talking about it here in the podcast. I mean, that's the whole idea behind this podcast is to give everyone ideas to kind of see where things are going. And listen, don't take my word for it. If you've spent some time listening to this podcast, I'm dumber than a box of rocks. Anyway, go out and do your own research and start looking at what some of this capability is available and what it's doing. And listen, by the time you get this, it will be at least a week or two after we recorded, which means there's probably going to be another 200, service agents out there already. It's like at the speed
Like,
that
that's
it's
how
going through.
quickly it's,
It
I mean,
is
it's,
going very, very, very
yeah,
fast, very, very
yeah.
fast. And so again, one more case study. Imagine an AI agent is constantly looking at the weather and then can proactively reschedule. Remember how like how much of a pain it is when
Hmm.
rain hits or
Lawn
there's a
care.
storm
Oh
that hit,
my.
and now you got to reschedule all those stops and you got to contact those customers, and it's just this. Imagine if you didn't have to do any of that. Just seriously. And it reaches out to customers and say, hey, listen, because of the inclement weather, we're going to reschedule to stop this. Please reach out. And the customer responds, and it just handles it.
That's
Unreal.
wild.
But I
That's
mean, that's
wild.
exactly. And listen, the
Yeah.
technology is there now to do that. It's there now. So now, do we have someone has built an agent to do that yet? No. But what I'm saying is that the capability is there. And so now it's just, the next step is going to be is now taking this technology and leveraging it on doing really, really useful things. And so that's why I'm excited about it. I feel like I've been talking a lot. I'm kind of done. I think I've gone over time. What else do you have here, Dan, before we finish out?
I don't have anything. I'm looking at the outline where, but
I didn't follow it.
you didn't follow it at all. But because you have a lot of statistics on how much money it can save in terms of percentages and
Yeah.
and what
Well, those
that's kind
statistics.
of, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Who knows, right? I mean, who knows these statistics? People throw stuff out all the time. I mean, it's like my old stat professor used to say: "There's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics." Right? You can make statistics say anything you want, but I will say this: if you're listening to this, and hopefully, if you understand this, I mean, it is so obvious of what this could potentially do for our industry. And I'm not just talking pest; I'm talking pest and lawn. It is unreal. It could most likely, listen, we're in a relationship business and it's always going to be about the relationship. But all this admin stuff, I mean, listen, I would love nothing more than our people in our office just talk to people and listen, tell these agents, go do this, go do that. That means, now instead of me having to have, 20 people, maybe I have five and the rest of it's agents doing all this other admin work. So, in any case, anything to add, Dan, before I close out?
No, it's just it's very interesting
Just
stuff. It's
unreal.
so cool.
It is very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
righty.
All
Just a reminder,
right.
all the resources and topics we talked about today are available on the podcast website. Just go over to pnpindustryinsider.com. Take a look under show notes. And as always, one other thing, we'll link up some of these agent AI platforms that are out there. There are a dime a dozen. There's tons of them. Again, even the mainstream ones like ChatGPT has these agents available as well. We'll put up some stuff about that as well. We always ask that if you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, however it is that you listen to podcasts. And if you got complaints, concerns, or generally speaking, a big, big negative review, Dan loves those, so send them on to him. All right, we'll talk to you next time. Take care.
See ya.
Bye bye.
Bye.